my celebrity, I'd pick Elon, but he's probably busy on Doge, so I'll go with Joe Rogan. We'll go with Joe Rogan. So I think it'll be me and Pat, or me and Matt. We'll take Trump, Tiger, and Rogan. So we're gonna
Good
play a
times.
fivesome because we do whatever we want.
I think I'm gonna skip that round.
I think that ultimately we agree there's a problem. We even agree with some of the solutions that need to happen. We have a trust in the leadership. You do not trust the leadership. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I do not trust him. I mean, this is a guy that the house always wins when it comes to casinos. This guy ran a casino into bankruptcy. Like, who does that?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Golf and Politics. Today, we have my good friend Casey Lang joining the program. Casey is the managing director of Lang Financial in Parkersburg, West Virginia. Casey and his beautiful family live right across the river in Waterford, Ohio. And he's not only a seasoned wealth management advisor who helps clients build financial security, but he's a very solid one handicap and an active voter, keeps a keen eye on politics. He was my college teammate and roommate, best man at my wedding, and to this day remains one of my very close friends and my financial advisor. And Casey has become friends with Rob as well through a trip that we went on to Ireland last year. And officially, this is big news for the Golf and Politics program. Officially, the first paid sponsor of the Golf and Politics podcast. Casey, welcome to the program, and thank you for believing in us
Yeah.
and being the first to get on board. I have to say this before we get into talking about your business. People ask me all the time, and Rob, I'm sure they ask you, why did we start the Golf and Politics podcast? And yes, we started to have fun. We started so that Rob and I could argue about politics, but still get along on the golf course. We started it to help bring people together through the game of golf, but ultimately we formed a business. And when you form a business, the goal is to make money. And so how you make money in this business is we build an audience, and that we build this audience of quality people that listen to this podcast. Then we can bring in paid sponsors like Casey so that we can help sell some really good products and services to our listeners. And Casey, you've got a great business. I want to just, first of all, thank you for listening to us from the beginning. Thank you for believing in us and being our sponsor. I want to just take this time to talk a little bit about you and your business. How did you get into this career of wealth management out of college?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I appreciate you having me, Rob. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on the show and to be a sponsor. Matt, I might remember this a little better than you do, but we were actually taking financial management at Marietta College. I thought when you started, you could, major in golf and basketball maybe in D3, but that wasn't the case. So unfortunately,
There's no
but I
NIL
grew up
deals
in a
for us back then.
no, not at Marietta College. No. But I grew up in a business owner household. My dad and his brothers, most of them are business owners, and I was just kind of told, hey, that's what you do. That's where the money's at. You start a business, and so I went into business and finance to start at Marietta College, and I remember we were sitting in that course, and I think I was paying attention more than normal because that wasn't it for me. Maybe you were paying attention most of the time, and I wasn't, but. All of a sudden you said, man, you said, you really like this stuff. Maybe you should think about doing this for a living. And, I know we spent a lot of time together, but, yeah, that class kind of prompted my love for finance. And I started back in 2004 with a list of people to call, which you were one of them at the top of the list and no clients at the time. And, here we are 21 years later and have built a nice little business. And, we've been able to provide what we hope is a lot of impact to our clients. So it's been a fun ride, but, there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in the early days.
Well, Rob, I'll let you ask the
So,
next question, but
yeah,
I
go
want to
ahead.
just say something about Casey before you ask your question. I mean, when I first met
Yeah.
Casey, he transferred in from Defiance College up in Northwest Ohio, and we became best friends right away. He shows up to play on the golf team, and I think he was carrying a really solid 2.0 grade point average coming in from Defiance with no real plans to do better in
Oh,
Marietta.
man, don't tell too many stories. And, Matt, I found my transcript the other day from Marietta, and my kids saw it, and I'm like, "Damn it," my kids are really good students.
I'm
I
telling you,
that
I've never
yeah,
seen
that first
somebody.
semester might have been a little rough.
Ooh, I've never seen somebody go from barely surviving, making a 2.0 to when he found out what he really loved in life and what he wanted to do,
Oh, I
to
know.
making all A's and excelling at grad school and being near the top of his MBA class. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
testament to I see this with my
Good
own son, like
good
the things that he's interested in, man, he can do really well. But if you're not interested, sometimes it's hard to make good
yeah,
grades.
good place to start, stay out of the bar.
Yeah, I think I I think a lot of people give advice to young people to follow your dreams and follow your passion. And I don't necessarily think that's the best advice. I mean, a lot of times what you're passionate about and what you dream about and what you're good at align. And that's a great situation where you basically get paid to do your hobby. You know, I don't know what Matt and I's other skills are than politics, but I think even if we weren't getting paid to do it, we'd still be in politics. But I think it's important that young people figure out, what are you good at? And whatever that is, it could be woodworking, but whatever you're good at, and chase that, because people are going to be willing to pay for your services, or they're going to be willing to pay for what you build. Um, so I think with that, I want to kind of transition a little bit to financial advice that you give to clients. I have other friends in your industry right now, and I'm sure they're getting
Sure.
phone calls, when there's short-term market corrections and a lot of disruption over tariffs and just big changes. What are you telling clients that are calling right now that are either hitting the panic button or looking for a safe place to put their money? You know, is it
Yeah.
ride it out, or is it,
What's so great about this is I have Matt on one side here and Rob, you on the other. And it's like I can just, if I'm in a meeting with Matt and I'm in a meeting with you, it's so different. And I can use, I can tell in the first 5 minutes if if they've been, you know, being fed by the propaganda machine on your side or not, because honestly, they're ready to jump, man. They're depressed and they're ready to jump. And then, I'll have a meeting the same day, the next meeting, and maybe they're on Matt's side and they're like, "Hey, I've got some cash on the sideline. I can't get it in quick enough. I saw that we've had a pullback in the market." So, um, the biggest thing I'll start with is I've been through plenty of presidential elections in 20 years of this. And one of the things, that I always hear from the opposite party is this time it's different, right? This time it's different. And, I have just, been through it plenty of times to know, that it's not different. Um, it's not different. So I think it depends, right? We spend a lot of time, counseling clients, but a lot of our clients also too have been through these market cycles. The tough ones are the early ones. So if I've got a client that's only been with us a year, 2 years, or 3 years, we spend a lot more time with those clients. But when we've had somebody that, I had a client in here today that's been retired for 9 years, and um, he was an orthodontist and retired, and great guy, and there wasn't any concern. We went through our normal planning process. He saw what he retired with, what he's got today, what he's taken in distributions. We went through all the planning and strategy, and he wasn't scared. So it's a little across the board, and I can get into a little bit more detail on that, um, but it depends upon the situation and it depends upon the client's sentiment a
but
lot of times on what we work on.
but the response to a 10% correction is different, based not on your politics. It's based upon your cash position and your personal situation. So, you know, the three of us have the ability to ride out swings.
Yep.
And I always tell people that get worried about it, look, markets go up and down. The only thing that really should scare you at the moment is if you're planning to sell and you don't have much time left in the game. Um, if you have the cash in the ability to buy in a down market, then of course, this is a great opportunity. But it's not a propaganda machine when the market loses 10% in response to tariffs that,
Well,
look,
yeah, well, but my part to that was more just the fear. So the
yeah,
the propaganda machine is what's creating the fear that's causing these clients to just be really nervous, really scared, and also causing, honestly, to be depressed. I've got clients that have, in my opinion, have pushing like depression just from, I've seen that too. I remember that when with Republican clients under second term Obama. So I'm not alluding to the correction. I also, don't know if we can pin 100% of the market correction directly on tariffs. So I do think there's a factor there, but I mean, we typically get a 10% correction once a year. We haven't had a, we haven't had it. We're long overdue for that correction. So don't get me wrong, there's some connection there, but to say that it's fully tariff related, I think would be selling it short a little.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that there is a strong correlation between when tariffs were announced and put in place and when there's a sell off. And look, if the long term strategy is raise tariffs to try to force US manufacturing over here, okay, well, that's a strategy, but it's not going to happen overnight. A lot of these, I know a lot of guys that own car dealerships,
Yeah,
and they're telling me, okay, great, you want more manufacturing in the US, that's above my pay grade. And to do it, you're talking about 5 to 10 year changes. In the meantime, we're going to have 5,000 Corvettes sitting on our lot that we can't sell. Um,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't want to minimize, these issues. And when we inject politics into this, look, I'm not stupid. I don't want to lose my money.
Yeah,
But I also look at the situation where under Barack Obama's second term, over his 8 years, the stock market quadrupled from when he started to when he left. His last 3 years of his presidency, growth, employment, the markets, everything outperformed the first 3 years of Trump before the first case of COVID hit here. My only real concern
that's a
here,
little debatable. I mean, I think, yeah, the S&P 500 was up in Obama first term 103%. It was up 85% in the 4 years of Trump. So, I mean, it's not there's not a tremendous difference there.
yeah,
And
but
if I could,
it
can I
also,
interject something too? I mean, I think one thing that
yeah,
we feel like, and this is as much my fault as anybody's fault, because let's be honest about what we sell in political campaigns. It's all emotion based advertising. Everything's about how you feel more than what the facts are. And here's the bottom line: we're 2 months, not even 2 months into the Trump presidency, right? He is trying to fundamentally make some serious changes when it comes to our manufacturing base. And we can argue back and forth about supply chain issues and whether manufacturing should be here or overseas or whatever. But the bottom, we're less than 2 months in. I mean, this is a man who
Yeah.
wants long-term solutions. I don't know that we can make reactions on what's happened in just a matter of weeks and say this is going to define his presidency. It's a long process, and we're all guilty of it because we
Yeah.
get
But I
addicted
do
to the
think we can
24-hour news
agree that
cycle and
the
social media.
Yeah, I think we can agree though that the tariffs and then, the uncertainty in the tariffs is extremely disruptive to, you know, to just business and the economy as a whole. So I do agree with you there, Rob, is, we've got plenty of clients too that are really, worried about 2025 because, a big portion of their business, or raw material is coming from, places that are being, that the tariffs are being applied. And it's, hey, look, are we going to increase prices? And then the next day it's okay, it's not 25, it's 15. So, I agree with you, but do you remember in 2019, when the same thing was going on at the end of the market 2019, we had a pretty similar market correction that we're having now. Within 2 weeks, everybody forgot about it after deals were made and life went, on as normal. I think here's something too that's really, really important in all this. You take a COVID, for example, or a great recession. you know, that's one thing, because we were really, systemically in trouble. If you have the lever of tariffs, right, you can always turn it back off. So I feel pretty good to say, all right, this isn't working. It's not working for the economy. It's not working for the markets. At least we have, a lever to pull to say, you know, let's, let's kind of get back to what was working. So, I think if that helps me to think it's not going to be a long-term correction, even if we do have one.
You studied finance. My degree is in economics. Um, I'm a student of the 1920s with the Smoot-Hawley tariffs. And there is, if you look at the US economy right now, we have 4% of the world's population and we control half of its wealth. That's because of international trade agreements. Our current agreement with Canada was negotiated by Donald Trump. He now calls it the worst deal ever. He negotiated it and signed it when he called it the best deal ever. If we go down the path of the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, of isolationism on trade, isolationism on immigration, and retreat from the world stage as a world superpower and leader, like we're doing in Ukraine and with NATO and in other areas, my concern is that our percentage of global wealth at 50% will slowly shrink. Not all the way down to our percent of the population, but these are not pro-growth strategies, and it is not a liberal democratic position to say
Well,
that
so
tariffs are a
so I guess,
tax
yeah. So Rob,
on
who
people.
did who collected more tariffs? Trump last administration or Biden?
Probably Biden, because Biden didn't really change many of the tariffs that were in place. I don't
So
think
are
all
these
tariffs,
these negotiating tactics that are, going to be solved in the short run, or are they long-term tariffs?
that's what everybody is scared about,
Yeah.
because it
And
places,
I think we all know the answer.
like, I'm not a jock sniffer of Donald Trump like Matt. My I don't trust him. I think that he views these trade these tariffs as a negotiating posture, but then it can quickly escalate into a dick measuring contest because he is incapable of having somebody punch back or
But you're forgetting about.
not fold to his will.
But Rob, here's the thing: if this is truly a dick measuring contest, okay, the ultimate contest comes up at the midterms and again 4 years from now. I don't think that Donald Trump wants to act out of his self interest and lose the midterm elections. Like Casey said, these levers are there, these negotiating tactics are there. This man's trying to get the economy roaring because that's how we win elections. So I mean,
I don't think he
I don't
cares.
know.
Look, a-
You don't think
as
he cares
somebody
that
who
he would.
no, because I watched Barack Obama's
Well,
first 2 years, and I'll tell you the same thing. I lost my job as the chief of staff on Capitol Hill because 62 Democratic members lost in Barack Obama's first Democratic and first midterm. And the White House couldn't have given two shits, because you know as well as I do that all modern presidents know, all modern presidents know that everything they want to get done needs to get done in their first year on domestic policy while they control the Congress and while they still have reasonable approval ratings. Because as soon as election year hits next year, everyone's going to be looking out for themselves. He's not going to be able to get big things through Congress, and he's going to have to start focusing more on international affairs. He knows that once he's a lame duck in years 3 and 4, he's not going to get much shit done, and he's probably going to lose the Congress. So he's trying to jam through as much as he can now. Every president does it. And if they lose 40 podunk congressmen in their first midterm, well, tough shit.
so what does failure look like, Rob? So if
Look,
we get
I'm not
if we
rooting.
think
I'm
it's the
not
winning
rooting for
strategy,
fail.
what's failure
Rooting for
look like then?
failure. I think failure is if we continue to escalate the tariffs in a constant tit for tat with no end game in sight.
Yeah,
And Canada and Europe and China decide, screw the United States. Let's cut our own
yeah.
deals separately.
So
Let's go around them. and Trump not backing down, because the guy, it's so much for him is about perception and ego and looking tough.
I know you guys are asking the questions, but transition to what really does matter. So to me, yes, this could matter, but I don't think it's ultimately, you know, it's not going to be the make or break for Trump. And so what I think does matter, and maybe more long term than short term, is the debt, right? So let's chew on that one for a bit. I'm interested. I did tune into, you guys were talking a little bit about this, and Rob, I know you mentioned you don't think we're moving the needle. I mean, do we all agree that it's an issue? To start, and I guess if how are we gonna solve that if the way we're going about it now, isn't the right path?
I think it's the biggest issue facing the country. And if
Yes.
you
Yes.
heard me on that podcast,
Yep.
I'm more conservative than either political party when it comes to the debt.
Yep.
Um,
Same.
I think that Doge is fun to watch and entertaining. I don't think they're cutting much. I think when the president asked Congress to raise the debt ceiling by 10 trillion over 4 years, he's telling you what the national debt will be in 4 years, regardless of what Elon Musk and Doge does. Okay. So we can all say waste, fraud, and abuse need to be cut. Wonderful. Waste, fraud, and abuse has become a broad, all encompassing term for any shit we don't like. We'll cut. Okay.
Yeah.
If there's fraud, where there's waste, cut it by all means. I'm all for it. But you're not scratching the surface until you stabilize the trillion a year we're paying in interest to finance the existing 36 trillion that are on the books. And the only way to stabilize, everyone knows we're never going to pay off that 36 trillion. But what we can do is stabilize its growth based on our GDP. The only way we can get there is to hit the unpopular shit that people lose their jobs over in politics talking about. I'm not running for anything. I feel comfortable saying the following. If you want to stabilize the debt, you have to have everything on the table with no sacred cows.
Right.
And you have to maintain 3 to 4% GDP growth
Yep.
over
Yep.
the long term.
I agree.
So you can't maintain 3 to 4% GDP growth if you want to just slash spending by 10 trillion.
Right.
You'll starve the economy. You can't do it if you just want to raise taxes by 10 trillion. You'll
Yep.
starve the economy. And the only places to find trillions are Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the Pentagon, and the tax code. I genuinely believe Democrats are wrong, and frankly, I think Trump is wrong on taking Medicare and Social Security off the table. There are solutions to make them solvent in the long run while being paid for. I, for one, think the Republicans are wrong for taking revenue off the table. I think it comes down to a combination of finding more revenue and cutting spending while maintaining growth patterns. Now, as a Democrat, I'm willing to put entitlement programs on the table. I think there are
Love it.
solutions.
Let's go. Let's
I
go.
I think there are solutions to Social Security. I don't know all the solutions, but
Right. But
I'm willing
do
to
you
put them on the
agree
table.
though? You agree, Rob, that we're, at least by digging in to the extent that has, happened with Doge, that we're making good progress?
No, I don't think Doge is making good progress. What Doge
Nope.
is it is giving the appearance of fiscal responsibility while driving up the debt, because you cannot ignore. I'm giving you Doge. I'm giving it to you. I'm ceding, I'm ceding Doge to you. Go ahead and cut all this little chicken shit stuff. That's wonderful. It doesn't mean
It,
shit
it,
if you're
raising
driving
fraud and
up the
abuse
overall
isn't
debt
chicken
by
shit.
10 trillion while cutting 500 million or 2 billion or 10 billion. I don't understand how you guys aren't grasping that,
We're not,
right?
because you've got to start somewhere. It's 2 months in, and you act like $100 billion of taxpayer money is nothing. You act like it's okay for, like
Because it's not
people.
100 billion and it's not cut.
I was just
I
It's
saying.
not
mean,
100 billion and it's
What do you suggest, Roddy?
nothing matters.
that you're
Nothing
Would you have
nothing
voted no on
matters
raising the debt
unless
ceiling if you were a
Congress
senator? Or if you're in the Senate, would you have voted no on raising the
nothing
debt ceiling?
nothing matters unless the Congress passes the law cutting the appropriations. That's what everyone's missing here. I've been doing this 20
I get
years.
that.
It's
I'm
not a
asking you
cut.
a question. Would you have voted for the debt ceiling increase? Would you have voted with Join
With
Schumer
the
and the other
bill that's
on last week? They voted to
I
increase
think
the debt
that
ceiling.
Yeah.
I would have voted against it. But I
You
think
know,
that
so
Schumer probably had
shutting
no
the government down would have been the right option there. I mean, Thomas Massey thinks that
No,
way.
I
Some
think
of the other
shutting
Republicans felt that way too.
no. Here's the thing. I struggle with it, and it would have been a tough vote for two reasons. One, I think Schumer is correct in that the Democrats have no power. They have no power. There's no stopping this. So if they did shut down the government, I'll waffle here. I probably would have voted to raise it, but vomited doing it, like a
Okay,
Republican who voted for TARP.
let me back up on this too. Then
So here's why.
you work in
Here's
Washington, you
why.
lobby. Do you think there was anybody that didn't about vomit to do the debt ceiling vote? They obviously nobody really wanted to vote to increase the debt ceiling. It wasn't like they were
But
excited to do it.
I think that I I hadn't really thought about how I would vote. I probably would have voted for it simply because I don't like entering a war or a battle without a victory plan or an exit strategy.
Yeah.
And if Democrats did not provide the votes to keep the government open, the Republicans don't care if the government shut down. They don't care if these departments go to a standstill.
I think they do.
It would have
Politically, it hurts. It's not
it
pleasant.
would have all there would have been no off ramp to reopen the government. And for 8 or 9 months politically, we would have taken the story away from all of the things Trump is doing to us being the ones that shut the government down with no off ramp to reopen it. We have no majorities. We have no power. So the idea that a lot of liberals have said, oh, shut it down and have the fight, it's not a fight we're in a position to win until the midterms. And it would have given more power to Elon Musk with the government shut down for 8 months to go absolutely hog wild with zero oversight and
Yeah.
anybody
The
being able
tricky
to
part
check
is
him.
we don't know
So I
how
would have
far
voted to
we
keep
are
it
from
open,
pain.
but I would have vomited.
Yeah, and look, Rob, here's where I agree with you 100%. We've had this discussion before on the podcast with other guests. I believe that you and I, when it comes to the crime of racking up the debt, and Casey probably agrees with it, is absurd. It's absurd that our country continues to just print more money and spend like drunken sailors. The problem, though, it didn't start with Joe Biden. It didn't start with Trump the first time. It didn't start with Barack Obama. It didn't start with George W. I mean, you have to go back a long ass way, right? This is something our
Yeah.
government has been doing for way too long. And
But
I don't know that you can find
but
the
here's
answer with a
And
divided
it's
government. I mean, it's not divided government. We have a
at
razor
least
thin
boiled to the top
majority.
enough to where somebody's willing to talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's
but
a positive thing.
here's the
I do too.
but
And we
but
got to
I think
start
it's great.
somewhere.
I think it's great we're talking about it, but I disagree that making the hole bigger first is the solution. Now here is where
But
the
Rob, you're
that
complaining about the stuff they're cutting on the little stuff. They go cutting the big stuff, you're gonna go crazy.
no. Here's the thing. Cut it all. Go ahead. Don't tell me you're being fiscally conservative by cutting out the daily Starbucks while buying a Ferrari.
All right. So look,
Good debate.
here's
Good debate.
we need to move on to golf, but I will say this.
Of course we do.
I think what
That
this
was a long
boiled
one.
what
That was a long one.
all of our arguments boil down to this. Casey and I
We can't
voted
let
for
it go.
Trump. Casey and I voted for Trump, and we trust that Donald Trump will find ways to fix some of these problems, that his negotiating skills will work. We will have good deals that will get made. It will be painful while we watch it going on, but I think there will be good outcomes. You, on the other hand, do not believe or trust Donald Trump even a little bit, and you think he's going to screw it all up and make it worse. And I think that ultimately we agree there's a problem. We even agree with some of the solutions that need to happen. We have a trust in the leadership. You do not trust the leadership. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I do not trust him. I mean, this is a guy that the House always wins when it comes to casinos. This guy ran a casino into bankruptcy. Like, who does that? And his strategy of poking our creditors
This
in
is
the
yes.
eye and our allies in the eye. Casey, it'd be like this.
I thought this
You
was
are
supposed to be
you are
bringing people
currently
together, Rob. I thought we're trying to come together.
You-
We've
here.
actually found
you are
that we
currently
found
the
ratings are
not it.
better when we argue. It's always better when we argue for whatever
Wait
reason.
a second.
all
Nobody
right,
wants
all
to hear
right.
the kumbaya
Casey,
bullshit.
you are currently
He can
I'll-
walk without tripping. Is that
I'll
a
give
good
you
start?
the best. Yeah, but you know what? He's
He
gonna
can put together a sentence.
he's gonna be 82 really soon, and no, he can't. He can't. I've
Oh,
never heard him
get
give
outta
a
here.
speech that was remotely
What's
competent.
Biden's handicap? He's a
Here's the
9.
pen
No, he's
actually
a 5. He
signed
can't
it.
remember.
But
if he's a
Casey, let me
5 or a
give you.
9.
I've actually played golf with Joe Biden, and I've.
Is he a 9?
But
or a
let me.
5? He can't remember.
He was when he was vice president, not now. But here's the thing: we're all going to be old someday. But
No,
I want
I
to
mean,
talk about your golf.
I
I want
know
to talk
that
about your golf game.
the S&P 500 went up a little more under Trump than it did under Biden, and the same thing's going to happen because I think we're making some progress, and it's going to be better than it's been. But I do think markets will go higher. So,
Okay,
I don't want that $50,000 bet, unfortunately.
I'm going to give you a compliment. I appreciate your golf game. I like the way you play. I think in some ways we're somewhat similar. We're steady. We hit it in play. Good short games. Good putting. Kind of like when Jordan Spieth was at his best. Yes, I'm comparing the two of us to Jordan Spieth. I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll.
That's right. Let's go.
What do you think about the golf ball rollback and the way distance is affecting course setups and the fact that these guys now, I mean, they never have to hit more than an 8-iron. I mean, they're hitting driver wedge into every hole. Like, I'm told that is growing the game and it's exciting. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Who was it that you had on the podcast? I love that podcast where you guys talked a lot about that.
Jeff Shackelford, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. That was probably one of my favorites. I thought you had some interesting points. And honestly, Rob, you're probably educating me here more. So I'm not sure that my opinions on this will hold much weight. But I thought it was very interesting, your thoughts around, taking these extra, the extra yardage in the cost for upkeep. And it's so different than how we grew up. I mean, Tiger kind of was the early, adopter of bombing it and go find it. And we kind of got to watch him, and grow up. But, my son's a, aspiring college golfer. And I know if he don't get his speed up, and if he can't bomb it, they're not interested. So guys like us are kind of obsolete in the game.
Yeah.
And, I don't really like that either. So I do see that. I think there's some pros and cons to both. I don't think for the, average amateur golfer that it makes sense. If golf courses are long enough, we're there to shoot a good score and have fun. But there's no doubt there's a good argument for, the way you win, all the analytics are just keep getting stronger and faster and bigger and bomb it. So, that's kind of exciting, but it takes away a lot of the creativity and, some of the smaller guys in the game. I know Matt's a smaller guy in size, but he has the speed. I never had that speed. And so competing in today's game for me and you, even at the high school and college level would have been kind of difficult. So I don't really have a strong opinion, but I do,
Rob, I actually had a question for you on this because you and I had an email exchange the other day where I told you that I thought Jeff and you won me over to your side on that podcast. But I got to thinking about it more when I saw a video the other day of tour pros hitting a balata ball with a persimmon driver down at TPC Sawgrass. And
saw that, yep.
it just got me thinking though, like, here's the problem. I'm all for it being rolled back if it means we're going to get golf courses that are set up the way the architects designed and it's cheaper to maintain and all that. But let me tell you something. Rory is still going to hit it 30 and 40 yards past Brian Harmon, right? I mean, there's still going to be a massive advantage if you roll things back for guys like Rory if they're hitting it far, right? I mean, like
Mhm.
he's going to find a way to hit that
That's
persimmon
not what I'm.
driver and that other ball further than you are, and he's still going to find. Like I
That's
don't know where the rub is.
that's
Like,
that's a non sequitur to my argument, because I'm not trying to narrow your advantage. I'm trying to bring shot making and classic golf courses and maintenance costs down. It's not about making Kevin Kistner hit it as
yeah,
far
sure,
as
okay,
Rory
I
McIlroy.
get
He
that.
never
But I mean,
he never will. So
how
my
far
my
back can they roll the golf ball? Like, hey, that's my thing too. Like, is it equipment too? Like, take the QI 35 out of
it's
a player's hands and put a persimmon driver. It probably accomplishes the same thing. So I
it's
don't know where the
it's the
right move is.
it's the ball and the equipment. I don't want to change an advantage that somebody has physically because they're got better flexibility, they're stronger. That's athletics.
Okay.
I don't want to. No, I don't think anyone's trying to remove that and say everybody should hit the ball the same distance. What I'm saying is that um, the current proposal, I think, would dial back the ball 10 to 15 yards. Um, and you would have a hard time, or anybody would have a hard time convincing me that that's going to have a dramatic effect on Rory or Justin Thomas's advantage and their ability to play. They're still going to be longer than everybody else. They're still going to have their advantage. But what it will do is it will bring in some more shot making. Instead of having a wedge in, they might have a 9 iron in or an 8 iron. Um, and the shorter guy's going to have a 6 iron. But it's going to bring more courses back in play. And really, it's not going to, it's more about stopping the inevitable progression with the
I got it.
technology than it is
That's
going back
yeah,
I can
to
be on board with that.
1995.
Here's the other thing. It's not
yeah.
just
I think
distance either. Like, I watched a great video last night about the original Vokey wedges and how they got outlawed because they were spinning too much and giving players such a huge advantage. They were just hitting these shots out of the rough that would hit and stop immediately because of how deep the grooves were. So the USGA and the RNA came out and changed the rules on the grooves and made that Vokey wedge, like, everybody switched to playing it immediately because it was so good. And then overnight, everybody had to find, a different wedge, and Titleist had to
I
go
see.
redesign it.
I'm fine with there being. Look, I think the focus of the committee of old nerds that makes the rules on these decisions should focus on making the game more fun and enjoyable for amateurs and stopping the progression of where things are going in the pro game. Because um for like the anchor putting rule, for example, I think it's a game of hands and touch. So I personally never liked the anchor putting or the long putters. I think it is an advantage to anchor something to your body and take part of the touch out of the stroke. Now, I do think they should have kept it in place for amateurs. I've never played with it, but there are a lot of older guys with bad backs or people who are chronically bad putters that it does help. And I'm fine with them being able to
Yeah.
play with it.
We saw
I'm
2 of
fine
them
with
this weekend.
I, I'm fine with amateurs having clubs that help them hit farther, because look, in the amateur game, like what really matters is the ability to get the ball up and down and the ability to have your club face square relative to your path. And all the technological advancements in the world aren't going to fix bad technique. In the pro game, oh, it's nothing but benefit, because they're hitting the same
Sure.
slot every time they know their path, they know their swing speed. So a lot of the arguments, so for me, it's
I
not
wonder
about
how far it could
equality.
go. Like, let's say
No,
technology stays the same because the specs, right, on a driver have been the same. So the only thing since, whatever, I know, like, I don't know if you remember, like, the 975J, I still hit it every once in a while, and it goes just as far, you know, it's the misses. But I wonder, like, how far can people take this if we, or are we kind of at the cap? because you got these people swinging. Like, I just can't imagine that physically it can continue. That's
I mean, if if
And
if
I
we
think
if we can fly an automobile into space,
yeah.
we can make a golf
yeah,
ball
but
go
the
500 yards.
drivers have been spec'd out for years, so they don't go any farther. That's what I'm saying. So, like, if you take a 975J from 20 years ago and I go hit it, it goes the same distance. Now
It's
you gotta
just
hit it on the sweet spot.
yeah.
And so to me is if the but what I'm is like really, if we look, I was just looking while you guys were talking, and we've increased yardage by 30 yards since, basically in the last 25 years, average for tour players. How far can that really go, or are people already kind of maxing out you know, physically? Because really, once you have the equipment, then it's all just speed. So,
And let
everybody's
me
equipment
yeah.
is
Let,
equipment. So,
let me
I
tell
don't
you
know.
what the big issue is here and why there's even disagreement on this is that the average golfer, I think, loves the fact that they play the same equipment and the same golf ball as Rory McIlroy or Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson, whoever they like as a golfer. They can go out and it's I'm playing the same driver as a lot of guys on tour, right? Like you get excited about that when you see a guy pull it out of his bag on a Sunday on NBC to hit a drive, and you're playing the same club or the same golf ball. Occasionally, like us amateurs can hit a ball as good as a pro, and it feels great, right? And I think it's part of the
Not
appeal of
any.
golf. I mean, look,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
when I think that's part of the issue, and I think that's maybe where there's some fear. But I look, I think you can do 1,000 different things. Golf is still a great game. And Casey, this kind of leads to my next question: whether we change the golf ball or not change the golf ball, golf's still going to be a great game, and that's what forged our friendship 25 years
Yeah.
ago. It's hard to believe. Um, and it's a
Crazy.
game. Yeah, it's a game, but it's much more than a game to us. And I know that it's something that's been a tool for relationship building. Like for instance, your dad taught you to play the game. There's Watson looking solid.
Uh,
Um,
mascot.
but your dad taught you to play the game.
he's making his
You-
golf.
yeah, your dad taught you to play the game. You're teaching your son, which by the way, Rob, his son's middle name is Parker, which is pretty cool. Reese Parker
Yep.
Lang. Shout out to
Yep. Yep.
Reese, who's
Yep.
probably going to be beating your ass quite a bit this year. He beat me last year one time in Parkersburg, so that was
Yeah. It's
humbling.
it's trending. It's trending that way.
But how has this game been used as a relationship tool, not just for you and your son, you and your father, friends, but also for business?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think it starts with just I love it, right? And to me, it never feels pushed or stressed. I don't ever if somebody calls and says I want to go play golf, I'm never like, no, that doesn't sound exciting. So I think the first part, right? The first part is it's like I just can't get enough, and I just love it, you know, so much that to me, I probably just am in a lot better mood, when I'm on the golf course. But yeah, I mean, I played in a lot of scrambles. We have a golf trip with my Santee buddies that we kind of have 28 guys. We go down and play and have a lot of fun together. I ran a Calcutta for a long time, just a group of guys that, a tournament, we had great time together. I've got my PCC family of people that we spend a lot of time together. And it's just, what's better than going out with your buddies, drinking beer, spending 4 hours together, having a couple beers afterwards, doing a little bit of competing. Yeah, I just don't know that there's much better. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is I never really look at it, Matt, like a relationship building tool or even a prospecting tool for work. I just enjoy being out there. And if great things happen, wonderful. If not, I'm going to have a good day anyway.
Speaking of great things on the golf course, talk a little bit about your review of our first trip to Ireland
Oh,
and just favorite memories, favorite courses. Want to go back?
oh, geez, they're endless. I mean, I just, I remember walking up on the first tee, Rob, and just kind of shaking your hand and Nick's hand, and me and you and Matt took off and just hitting the first tee shot, and I hit it in the freaking bunker. Um, and I think I was nervous and I made, I don't know, bogey or double on the first hole. But, then just every day, right? Every day being by the ocean and walking and just, I tell you, it was special. We also had a lot of good debates like today and, the pubs were awesome. We had some nightlife and got into a little bit of trouble with Nick and Bob. Just, we just had some great times, man. I don't, nothing in particular, stands out at the moment, but it's just the whole trip. I've talked to quite a few people since I've been back and, I've been like, look, you got to go. You also better go too before you're too old because I think what we trek about 80 miles. Stayed at 5 or 6 different hotels and we're about 20 hours in a bus. And then also too staying out every night till 2 in the morning drinking beer probably didn't help, but it was a little bit of work too. So just a
I thought
fantastic time, and I think we created a brotherhood, and it's great that we still text and like my Santee group and the Ireland group, and just I think it really creates a brotherhood.
that trip started as Brad wanting to go to Ireland and sending me his thoughts on the trip and me responding 2 days later with what the trip was actually going to be. I just guy commandeered it. He
Yeah,
was playing with live rounds. Um, I was nervous going into it as you can imagine with some of these
I bet.
trips is that most of us didn't know each other.
Yeah,
And I was really impressed with just how well all 8 of us clicked. And I think my favorite memories from the trip obviously were meeting you guys, and I like the time in the bus. I think my favorite round was the par 3, the 9-holer at Crooks Island.
yeah.
I thought that was special. My favorite match was our match at Sandy Hills. It
Oh,
wasn't my
man.
favorite.
That was
Wasn't
awesome.
my
That night was
it,
pretty sweet.
yeah, the pizza place.
Yeah,
It wasn't my favorite course, but it was my favorite match. Mostly you and I providing therapy to
yeah,
our
yeah,
teammates.
and providing all
Uh,
the shots pretty much.
yeah, until the end, and then
Yeah, oh, man, let's
uh,
not talk about they beat us on the last hole. We don't wanna talk about that.
yeah, that was a great shot by some guy from
Yeah, I don't
Washington.
know who it was.
And then I loved obviously Jer. I think Gerard Burke really just kind of,
Man, he's
I don't
so
know, he just kind of elevates the whole
he does.
experience and
Yeah.
ties it
That
together.
round
And
at Sandy Hills, so, Jer and I rode together, and remember, we put on old country music, not knowing we had that in common, and every song that came on, I sat there and sang, and he sat there and sang, and it was just man, it was sweet. Yeah, that was and I think too, that's why I was in the zone. Of course, Matt was on his phone and being pissed off because he was hitting every shot in the in the high stuff, and so me and Jer were having a good time. But it was,
uh,
yeah, that was just pretty special.
watching Matt and Nick that day, I was thinking like, I would love to be able to hit it as far as they hit it. But like I know for a fact, I would have just taken out 4 irons and just hitting 4 irons down the chute
Dude, when
every
it
day,
gets
put it on the
sideways
green.
like it got for Nick and I that day, when it gets sideways, it doesn't matter if you're hitting a 4 iron or a 7 iron.
It
If you can't get the club face square that day,
yeah,
forget it. You're just hitting it off the planet.
until Nick made the Phantom hole in one. Oh, hey, him at Enniscrone, that was another pretty memorable one because both I guess it was mainly him. He was just absolute
Oh
having a
yeah.
fit. He was hitting good shots, but the caddy would say, "You need to land it 20 yards short and bounce it in." And he'd be like, "No, I can hold that green." And he'd hit it on the front of the green and it'd bounce over
64-degree wedge all
30
day
yards
long.
over. Yeah, and he's just going on and on and on because he actually hit the ball pretty good that day. So that was
This
another
this is the
that was
worst
another
course
pretty
I've ever
memorable
played.
round.
It's terrible. Worst course I've ever played.
Yeah.
Like, well, Shane Lowry thinks it's the
Yeah.
best course in the world, dude. Like, I think it's pretty nice.
Well,
Yeah.
I gotta get you guys to commit to the golf and politics Ryder Cup at Grable. We got to at least do one match with the 4 of us
I'm in.
Well,
back in the saddle.
we are
Ah,
the captains, Rob, and Casey is my vice captain, and I know Nick is your vice captain. So I think it can be arranged for
yeah.
us to do whatever the hell we want to because it's our event, and
I
so we'll make it
I think it's
happen.
a blast. Yeah, I loved on the trip how like we originally committed to trying to play with everybody, and I think we maybe did, but we ended up wanting to play against each other the whole
Well, it
time
was such a
because
competitive match every time that,
yeah,
we
it's
didn't have to
fun.
deal with strokes. We just played
Yeah.
and that made it, and it was close. I don't know what we ended up, but I know we were reasonably close for
I think that when it was all
um,
done, we
for the
nobody
whole
owed
trip.
anybody anything. If you remember too, that Enniskrona
Yeah.
round, Casey, first shot of the day, Nick just nails Rob's buggy right off the bat, but then
Oh,
with a
yeah,
3
right.
And it was like the ugliest buggy ever.
Yeah,
Remember
Oh,
that?
that's for
he
It was
also was
like
doing
1955.
yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah, that's right, it was yeah. He also was doing his breathing therapy on about the 16th hole, laying in the middle of the fairway. It's
dude, he is the most entertaining meltdowns ever. Nobody says "fuck you" quite like Nick Kirsch. I love
Yeah,
the way he says "fuck you," like
I know.
because it sounds like he's kidding, but he's not, and I love it.
Which I think that's what's so great too, Rob, because he's your Matt, and that's like you said about the therapy too on that Sandy Hills, because Matt was doing the same shit, and it's like, Bob Kyle actually texted me separately. Matt was having one of his meltdowns. You guys were down in Florida somewhere recently, right, playing golf, and
I had the
Bob texted
Shanks. I
me
had the
separate
Shanks.
saying, "Hey, what do you say to Matt when he's in this state of mind?"
Hey, don't worry, Bob Kyle and I found a
Well, and the thing
way.
is,
We
like,
found a way to win. We found a way to win.
it's
Uh,
also nothing. It's also nothing new for any of us because Nick and I have been playing golf together since before high school, and we played on the same high school team. And you guys have played together for at least 25
yep,
years. So
very
it's
similar.
fun. It's fun playing together at our current age, but some things never change. Like
Yeah.
with the
And let
Yeah,
me
it's
tell you,
still
it's
just
let me
as
tell you,
fun
let
part
me
of
it's
our
tell
still
let,
charm.
just as fun to meet Matt now as it was 25 years ago,
I will tell you this too.
and that happens frequently.
95 times out of 100, the Casey and I are team. Casey gets the best out of me. My mental game is usually on point. It's really strong. For whatever reason, Sandy Hills that day, it was not working. Like we just weren't getting along. Then I'll give one other example from that trip. We're playing at Ballybunion, and I start off even par through 6 holes. I'm playing pretty good. Casey's not his normal self. He's got like 5 bogeys after 6 holes, and I'm feeling all the confidence in the world. And we're walking to the seventh tee, and Casey looks at me. He's like, "It's going to be a long day if we have to rely on you for 18 holes." And my confidence went out the window
Yeah,
right then and there.
that's yeah, and then I picked it up, and, I think we made it close, but yeah,
All right.
that's funny. Yeah, we've had some pretty awesome times, and we played a lot of golf together, that's for sure, and it's been a fun ride. Hopefully, we got 25 left.
We got some big rounds coming up
Absolutely.
this year, boys. Maxwell, Nebraska is going to be a real deal. We'll have a preview show. Our teams are now set. Both teams are set. Teams of 8. They'll be competing against each other, and look forward to having you back on, Casey, with Nick, and we'll talk through that. But let's do our shotgun 9 very quick questions, quick answers, and then we'll close out with you giving a little another pitch about your business and how people can connect with you. Give us your dream foursome. Got to have a politician, got to have a pro golfer, have to have a celebrity. Who's in your dream foursome?
Yeah, that's difficult for me on the politicians, so I picked 2. I picked Matt Parker and Donald Trump, just
Same person. Same person.
just
It'll be
just
huge.
for Rob's sake. It's gonna get worse. The golfer, you gotta go with Tiger, man. He's,
Well,
childhood hero, what he
he's
did for the
dating
game of
Trump's
golf.
former daughter-in-law
I
now.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that, but
Yeah,
I
Tiger.
also,
Apparently,
maybe would
Tiger is
even be able to
dating
beat
Vanessa
him on a
Trump.
couple holes. Yeah, since he's on one leg. My celebrity, I'd pick Elon, but he's probably busy on Doge, so I'll go with Joe Rogan. We'll go with Joe Rogan. So I think it'll be me and Pat, or me and Matt. We'll take Trump, Tiger, and Rogan. So we're gonna
Good
play a
times.
fivesome because we do whatever we want.
I think I'm gonna skip that round. Um, so Mac knows that my favorite week of the year is MG Cup week, and inviting someone to MG Cup is the greatest sign of love that I can demonstrate. My first question is, are you gonna fucking big time me this year and
Buddy,
skip MG
you
Cup?
get me that date ASAP, and as long as it's on the calendar before everything else, I will not miss it. The only thing that could hold me from it this year is my son's state tournament. That's the only thing. So if it's
It's
that week,
October. It's like October 17th, 18th ish weekend.
I think I'm good. I think he's the weekend before. I hope.
It'll be too cold in Ohio that week in
I know they
October.
play it, and sometimes it is freezing. It's not on the schedule yet. So I do
Well,
think
just know
I do
the
think we
invite
could.
has officially been made in public.
I
I am
love it.
not going to lobby you. I am not going to beg
You
you.
don't have to lobby me, man. I will be there. I told you there's one thing. There's one thing that can keep me from it. That's it. There's nothing else. So I can't miss that. But other than that,
I
as long
understand.
as it lands on the schedule, I'll be there. I can't wait.
I understand. I
All right.
understand.
Cannot wait.
Question. If you had to choose between going out on a Saturday night in Vegas or a Wednesday night in Letterkenny, Ireland, what do you choose?
With you boys, as long as I'm with you boys at either one, we're gonna have fun. But I'll tell you what, Letterkenny was a night.
Oh, yeah. Letterkenny, baby.
Letterkenny was a night.
Good answer. Now, I've got another question that goes directly toward your judgment. You entrusted Matthew Parker to give a speech at your wedding reception.
I did.
I would like you to tell us how that went and what on earth you were thinking and just any other tidbits.
Oh man, I tell you, it went better than whenever I took Matt out for his bachelor party. I can tell you that it went better than that. It wasn't too bad, you know. He kind of stood up there at the time. He was a aspiring politician, so you know, he actually did a pretty good job. I'll give him a lot of credit. So I hope he'd say the same thing
Did,
for me. But
Yeah, you're
did he
there were
get
some
any
forgetting.
other
did he
times I
get
wouldn't
any
give him that credit.
did he get any names wrong?
Oh. He might have. He might have, but he saved himself. He beats himself up on that more than he needs to.
Okay.
What was so weird is I just threw out this random name. It wasn't like any woman in our lives at all. Like
Yeah.
I
Well, that's
have
what
no
I say. He
idea.
was an aspiring politician, so that mistake really bothered him, but it wasn't a big deal.
A friend of Casey's, Nick Pomeyer, really had a field day with me on that one, giving me a hard time about. All right. If you could only have one playlist on your phone for the golf course, what playlist you got?
Oh man, it's old country.
That's right.
It's old country.
Deer Camp
Yeah,
Volume
I
1,
mean,
Deer Camp Volume 2.
yeah, Deer King. Yeah, I do like Tom Petty radio, you know, because to me, to paint regardless of who you're playing with, it works. So some Tom Petty radio um, is also pretty solid, but old
What about
country
some
with the right
what
group.
about some old Bob Dylan? You know
Man,
Bob Dylan?
not as
I'm,
much. Not as
I'm
much.
saying there was
Okay.
nothing better than, I was in a bad mood because I was playing so bad. I had a work emergency that came up and all that stuff at Sandy Hills. But anytime I was feeling too bad, I just look over at the cart and Jared and you would be drinking a beer, singing "Trailer for Sale" or rent, and I would just get a big smile on my face
Yep.
because you and Jared were bonding over
Which
that old
became a
music, man.
theme song
Yeah.
for the trip too. Jared would
And then there's Nick and I playing 90s rap and hip hop.
yeah, I can get behind that too, Rob. We could listen to
Yeah.
some of that together. I'll be just fine there.
Oh, back when, yeah, when I
Okay.
first met Casey, by the
My
way,
next
hey, Rob, real quick, when I first met Casey, 2.0 student, he didn't always drive a pickup truck and listen to Deer Camp. He was driving a T-top Camaro with Tupac and Jay-Z blaring all the time. So
That's
he had
right,
he
man.
had a little bit
Speakers
of a
in the back.
change in college where, we started with the rap.
Tommy Tough Nuts.
Yeah.
Tommy Tough
Oh,
Nuts and his Camaro. It's
right, baby.
T-Bird.
Yep. That's the way
Casey
we roll.
Lang, isn't that the name of one of the good guys from the Ninja Turtles movie?
I don't know.
Remember like the guy with the hockey stick?
Yeah.
All right.
You know, in our
Maybe
era.
that was after your time. Was Ninja Turtles after your time? You
Yeah,
guys
I
are
don't
older
know.
than me.
I don't know on
You
that.
guys are much older than me.
Yeah. But that was the thing, right? 90s rap, you know. That was
Yeah.
that was the deal when we were in high school.
Okay.
So did our fair share of it.
So give me the course you have not played in Ohio that you would most like to play, and the course outside of the US that you'd most like to play.
Whew. Yeah, I mean the old course would be outside the US. That's the easy answer, and that's honestly my best answer. You know, I was early on with the I hadn't done, you know, anything, so the trip was kind of new to me. So that's probably the easy answer, but I look forward to hopefully doing that trip, maybe even with you guys. Hitting a bunch of the courses there in Scotland, just kind of like we did in Ireland. In Ohio, I'd probably say the golf club. Um, that or Scioto, but probably the golf club. Not been on either, and those would definitely be high on the list.
Well, we gotta put a Columbus trip together because I know. Sorry,
Yeah.
Watson's making noise.
No problem.
Columbus trip at some point.
No
Amen.
question about that. All right. Speaking of golf and politics, I mentioned it earlier. We have our annual match coming up. Two of our best friends from college. The four of us get together every year. In fact, Rob, last year's trip, I had to be the guy that called the other two guys in the group to cancel our September golf trip because Casey and I were going to Ireland. Well, that was a tough call to
Yeah,
make, but they were very
amazing
understanding.
call.
They understood. They knew
I
they
said
needed,
I'm in,
they
but you
needed
got
to
to call those guys.
Yeah. So this year we're doing our match. I'm hosting at Briggs Ranch in San Antonio. Here's an interesting thing. We have a friend named Luke, and he's a liberal. Our friend Mike, he's a liberal. Casey and I are the conservatives, but we're on opposite teams. It's always Casey and Luke versus Mike and I. But here's the biggest problem we have with this trip is Luke is, he used to be a pretty solid 13, 14 handicap. He quit playing golf. We talk all the time about golf is this game you can play for your whole life. Luke, at 40 years old, decided to quit playing golf, and now he plays ice hockey. The problem is
He's also
get to
got
the-
two young kids.
we get to the first tee of this match. We have no idea what his handicap is. So, Casey, my question for you is how ridiculous of a handicap are you negotiating for Luke this year so you can try to win?
One that's good enough to win. That's all that matters. One that's good enough to win.
Well, my advice to anyone who quits golf at age 40 is to get out of your liberal beta cuck chair and be a man and play some golf and keep a handicap, be a gentleman, and don't show up like a little bitch without a handicap like you've never been there before.
Who stops playing golf at age 40 to take up ice hockey, like legit ice hockey with checking and everything else?
The guy that has two kids at age 40, and I don't think he's playing ice hockey. He's playing ice hockey when the kids go to bed because that's the only time they can get the rink.
Dude, I wouldn't even play ice hockey on a video game.
Me neither, or watch it, but
yeah. Well, Casey, I don't have any more questions. I think I've got a good feel about you. I'm a big fan. Even when we disagree, I feel like it's a lot of fun.
yeah.
I look forward to more times in the van with Jer and Matt and the group and playing more golf, whether it's in Scotland, Ireland, Ohio, DC, wherever.
And what I would like to say to that too, Rob, is that, I want to, thank you for inviting me on the trip, putting the trip together, and also just you've educated me. And I think that's, spreading to this little area of, I think that I'm taking some of that education and pushing it across some of the people in my group. So, I really enjoyed to get to know you and the group, and you pushed me to grow in certain areas, and I think we've had a lot of fun together, and I think we're going to continue to do that. So,
and I think we can always cut Matt out of this.
That's fine too. Maybe we need a Casey and Rob match. And
I'm from West Virginia.
We're used to on those two guys.
I'm from West Virginia. I'm used to getting screwed all the time. It's fine. Everybody hates West Virginia.
Well, nah, it's impossible. It's impossible to be mad at Matt. How can you be mad at Matt? Matt's the nicest guy, and Matt's the nicest guy in the world.
There's no doubt. He's definitely.
He's just wrong.
Well, on that note, Casey, hey, thank you again for sponsoring the program. Just give our audience, how can they get in touch with you? And also, what does your ideal client look like? Who are you looking to do business with, and who can you be helpful to, and how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, let me I guess I'll run down through the commercial here for you guys. But, we really serve three groups of people. So there's, as Matt knows and Rob, as you know, there are a lot of plants up and down the river here. I know you guys grew up here, and there's a lot of just great, hardworking, middle-class people that have worked their whole life and saved money, and they don't know if they're in a position to retire or what type of position that they're in and what retirement looks like. So, that's kind of the first group. And usually those people are, 50 to 55 and then through retirement and they're, just thinking about, hey, look, I've saved money, but, can I really retire? Um, and then the next group of people are high income W-2 earners that retire typically before 60. So we've got a really good tax planning, in tax strategy for that, especially people with after tax money that say, hey, look, I want to retire, and what do I do now? So, kind of the fire movement people that are financially independent that retire early. And then the third one's really the group of people that I spend the most time with now, which is people like you guys, people like me, had a dream of growing a business and building a business, or maybe they're an equity partner in a bigger, conglomerate, but that are really entrepreneurial oriented, that love having conversations like we had today. And a lot of those people are, thinking about, what does this business have to look like or company have to look like for me to be financially independent at the level I desire? And really just digging into business owners. We have a lot of lifestyle expenses a lot of times in our business. So there's a big misconception a lot of times on what people spend. So really just helping them think through, all right, what is it going to take? What kind of exit, do I need to have in order to put myself in a spot that I want to be? Or do I want to run this thing like a lifestyle business and, do that route. So I spend a lot of my time with that group of people. But at the end of the day, I grew up in a town that's really small, and between, Beverly and Waterford, there's not a lot of people there, and we'll serve anybody. So we have other advisors on our team that kind of focus in those three areas. But if somebody calls and wants a financial plan and wants help, we have somebody here to serve them. So, we kind of made you know, that pact early on and said, look, we're here to serve the community, and that's our mission, to help the Mid-Ohio Valley and beyond become more financially secure. And we take a lot of pride in that. I know a lot more about financial planning than I do politics, but I still really enjoyed the debate. And I learned really quickly that, Rob's a professional at politics and Casey is a professional at financial planning and investment management. So,
I have no doubt that you're the best, and you're a person of integrity, and I've seen that through our time together. And really, when it comes to trusting somebody with their retirement, their investments, the integrity is the most important thing. I mean, there are a lot of people who are experts that you can't trust. And I think that with you, I have no doubt that all your clients are well served and that they can trust that you're giving them the best advice out there and what you truly think is the right thing for them to do. Because what a lot of people don't know about being a small business owner, there is no pension. There is no, you are your own retirement
yep.
plan, and you're your own healthcare plan and your own insurance plan and your own everything. And, growing up in the Valley, my mom still lives in the same house that she and my dad bought in 1975, the year they got married. Um, my mom still works in the same school district that she's been working in since she was 21 years old. She's now 70, going to be 75.
Yeah. Should be happy
My
about the
dad,
Social Security Fairness Act.
yeah. And so it's like, when I told them I was going to start my own business, they were really nervous and almost lost their minds that I turned down a big lobbying job at a big firm with no guarantee of making a nickel
Yep.
doing this. And so, like you guys, I just really appreciate people that take the risk to put their own capital at risk to start something and to bet on themselves and to figure it out. Because that first business plan you write up starting a business, it never works out that way. It always gets rewritten and rewritten and rewritten. And only people that have been through it understand that. And I don't know if I'd have the balls to do it again.
I know. I feel
You
the same way,
like,
Rob. It's like, man, looking back and saying, geez, so I want to go through that again. I'm not sure that I would,
yeah,
sometimes, but it's nice to, be where we are today and to think about, man, that's what you know, that's the vision we had, 20 years ago. So I enjoy that too. Yeah, that's another thing too. You know, we use the EOS system and we're very, process oriented inside of our business, but That's why I work with a lot of business owners. All those things that you just mentioned is, just we think a little differently.
Well, two things to close it out, Casey. Number one, you will work with people that don't live in the Mid Ohio Valley. So listeners of ours from across the country can get in touch with you. And number two, do you have the website and other ways they can get in touch with you and connect with you?
Yeah, so still the best way to get in touch with us if you're interested, there's no cost or no obligation to go through our planning process. We do not charge a planning fee, unlike other firms. But if you call we call it our plan line, but it's 304-973-7526, which is 304-973-PLAN. You'll get my wonderful assistant, Lindsay. She'll do a screen. She'll talk to you about, what you've got going on, and she'll match you up with the correct advisor, whether it be me or somebody else on my team. So she's been with me for over 10 years. She's wonderful. She'll take good care of, whoever calls in. So that's still the best way. I mean, you can go to my website, get the phone number, but really the best way to connect to us is, and you can look us up and connect with us there too, but just give us a call and let us know what your needs are, and we'll see if we're fit to solve those needs.
Awesome. Well, Casey, thank you for your time. Rob, as always, it was fun. Thank you to everybody that's listening to Golf and Politics. Check us out. We're on every social media platform. Everything's listed here. We are on every audio platform for podcasts, and we also are on YouTube. And if you can go on there and subscribe, it really helps us a lot to build our audience. And again, we appreciate every single person that's listening. And Casey, thanks for betting on us and being the first to sponsor the show. So,
Yeah.
guys,
Hey,
I had a
thanks
lot
so
of fun
much,
with
guys.
this. Looking forward to
Yeah,
seeing you
enjoyed
guys
the
on the
heck
golf
out of it.
course.
We'll
All
talk
right.
soon.
Take care.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, guys. We'll see ya.